Hi, I'm Wings Loved Valkyria. This is my first video and I hope you enjoy it. Also, spoilers for the movie Fight Club if that wasn't obvious. Oancitizen from Brows Held High made a video about how movies can reveal things about the society that creates them. Based off of Siegfried Krauser's book From Caligari to Hitler, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, I don't speak German, but I do respect the man who made the book. As the book promotes, movies are a mass media, meaning that many people had to come together to make a single film. The film created may appear to be apolitical in nature, but in the subtext, reveal fears held by those the film is marketed towards. Oancitizens then goes to show how pre-Nazi Germany had films and villains that were coded Jewish, like Nosferatu, and then explains further with the film M, how far is it to go from marking an M on a person's back to catch a degenerate killer to a yellow star. Then shows a montage of current Western films, primarily from the US, where the heroes we idolize in those films tend to reveal a similar subconscious to that of films like Nosferatu and M. In that montage, Oancitizens used Fight Club as a depiction of a supposed film with a cool hero that all the masses root for. However, when looking at the film, you can see that it is a critique of the mindset of the hero. With that thought in mind, I began to think about what Fight Club says as a film about our society, or at least about this is how society was, give or take a decade and some odd years ago. Which led me to this idea: when does subtlety begin to hurt a film's message? There's no denying that Fight Club is a great film, wonderfully paced, acted, and shot. However, did its message get across to its audience? The general idea when someone analyzes Fight Club is that we talk about the main character played by Edward Norton's warped mind and what it's supposed to mean. Is he secretly a closeted gay man? What does Tyler Durden really represent in his entirety? Fight Club is filled with little questions and ideas that the viewer has to answer for themselves and examine the piece in order to come to any conclusion, even if that conclusion is different from a fellow viewer may come away with. One thing made clear by Fight Club is that Edward Norton's character and Brad Pitt's Tyler Durden are both emotionally stunted men. They're both the same man, as a matter of fact. Edward Norton's character I'll call the MC because he doesn't have a name, and it would be too hard to refer to someone as the protagonist or the main character throughout an entire video. The MC joins support groups for issues he doesn't have in order to have an emotional response to anything, as he's been unable to emotionally connect with anyone or anything for quite some time and is feeling empty inside. It makes him kind of relatable. He seems to be the type of guy who's going through a midlife crisis, which everyone goes through at some point. So it makes him seem more palpable to the audience and easier to relate to, as even though he's a successful person, he still feels unsatisfied with his life. When he creates Tyler Durden, he makes him the perfect man. Someone who's cool, smart, good with the ladies, good looking, strong, able to say all the things he wants to say and do all the things he wants to do, even if he can't do them himself. The main character falls for Tyler's shtick. He finds Tyler so cool and enticing and inviting that he decides he wants to go with him, start Fight Club, and continue fighting because it makes him feel alive. And why wouldn't you want to go with Tyler Durden? He seems so inviting and fun and cool, just that friend you wish you had. But that's kind of the point, that Tyler is a con man who's tricking all these people into giving up their individuality and following him through the film in order to get his message across. The message of the movie Fight Club is that you're supposed to see Tyler as being the wrong one, that he's just a fantasy. You're not supposed to want to be him or do any of the things he actually does, as what he actually does can potentially end up hurting a lot of people and ends up getting Bob killed. Bob was one of the only characters that the MC had an emotional connection with, and it's through Bob that he realizes that what Tyler's doing is wrong, that he has to stop this. At the end of the day, the goal of Fight Club is you're not supposed to go with Tyler, you're not supposed to do what he does because people get hurt. But how many people in the audience really came away with that message? Because even though the film is a critique of the whole let's fight against this oppressive society even though we're not really oppressed, there are still people who fell into the idea that Tyler was right. And why did they? I mean, people have emulated this movie in real life despite the fact that the film itself is like, you're not supposed to be like Tyler. Even the MC, his main goal at the end of Act 3 is to stop Tyler from blowing up buildings in a city. Yet there are people who still are like, let's do Project Mayhem, let's do this. Why? I think it has to do with the fact that Tyler was so cool and enticing that people didn't get that he was supposed to be a con man, that he wasn't supposed to be the person you wanted to follow. And while that may have been the movie's point, if you're a passive viewer, and a lot of moviegoers are passive viewers who don't choose to engage with the film and really look deep into it to like look hard for that subtext, you may have gone away with this film thinking that Tyler was right. This isn't to shame passive moviegoers. A lot of people don't have time to always be analyzing the films and media they consume. They have too much going on in their own life to always look critically at every piece of media they consume. You have to sometimes let things go in order to move on with your daily life. It's like asking a chef to build you a telescope. For the average moviegoer, dissecting film and looking really hard at film language to uncover deep meanings about the film may not be their forte, and they may not always get everything in the same way that a critic would. So they may not get the idea that Tyler is supposed to be bad and we're not supposed to follow him and we're not supposed to think he's good, because this is a man who says, we're getting back what's ours. This generation set us up to be rock stars and we didn't turn out to be rock stars, so we have to rebel against that. And the film shows how dangerous he is, but he's also Brad Pitt, who looks wonderful and has the type of charisma you'd want to follow. And because the film assumes that everyone's just going to come to that own conclusion based off the subtlety and how he makes people in the Project Mayhem group give up their own individuality to come to the conclusion that Tyler is really just a con man who's using people to get his own agenda across, like a cult leader, that we're not supposed to follow him. But the thing is that they don't spend enough time in the film dismissing that, and the critique is too subtle. We've been prepped by our society to view this machismoistic behavior as a positive, as Tyler's a man's man, so obviously he's right and we have to follow him, and only dismissing at the end that he is wrong is too late to show that that the movie is about dismissing this machismoistic behavior, even though it's supposed to be a critique of said behavior. There's not enough, and I hate to use this word, blatant critique, in order for it to get the message across to everyone who watches the film. As a result, as you can check in the links down below, you have people who try to emulate this movie and end up hurting others as a result, even though this is supposed to be a critique of said movie trope. This also isn't the first movie to have a critique of society and who we sympathize with that ended up getting emulated. A Clockwork Orange, another masterpiece of a film, you had people who sympathized with Alex and decided to emulate him, even though the film is showing you that Alex is wrong. why do people decide to emulate these films when the clear message is that, when the subtle message is that these protagonists are bad people and you shouldn't want to be like them? The reason I disagree with Oancitizens' use of this movie in his film montage is because it is a critique of that kind of hero. But even as a critique, it failed because it didn't reach the people it was supposed to. People often walk away from Fight Club thinking that it was a cool film, that Tyler Durden is cool, when you're really supposed to see him as a monster. You're not supposed to see him as the cool guy. He is literally a mental illness inside another man's brain. You're not supposed to emulate him. And Fight Club isn't the first film to do this. A lot of people like I said before, a lot of people sympathized with Alex from A Clockwork Orange and thought that he was cool and decided to emulate that. And there are links, like I said, there are links down below if you want to read up about that as well. This is something else I want to bring to the conversation, that even a critique, if it's not hammered in hard enough, it won't reach the audience it's supposed to, and as a result it ends up looking like it's looking like it glorifies the thing that it's critiquing. That you can't have a movie where it's an hour, where it's like basically an hour and 30 minutes of, hey, look at how cool this is, and then shame it in the last 20 minutes because it sends people mixed messages. It's kind of like the Lorax movie, where the nostalgia critic said, you have 4 upbeat songs about cutting down trees and only one song that says give a damn about the trees. It seems to be sending a mixed message. While I agree, while I partially agree with Kosher's idea in his book, I think he also needs to. I think that in this modern era, we need to account for different interpretations of movies, because there are people who like clearly understood that you're not supposed to take certain characters a certain way. Like, you're not supposed to, like, there are people who walked away from Fight Club going, yeah, Tyler Durden was a horrible man, like we were not supposed to side with him. But there are also people who did decide to emulate that man and think he's a cool symbol of masculinity. And most importantly, I think it should be clear that the people who made the movie Fight Club were obviously not on the side of Tyler. That they wanted to show that this was really a bad thing that was going on. But somehow, if I feel another element to Crosser's argument that needs to be added on, that even if it is a critique, people will come to it with their own biases and believe that it's really a glorification of the thing, that we're supposed to side with the person it's critiquing when in reality we're not. And that there are filmmakers who are trying to go against societal norms and the idea of our heroes, and show that they're not as good as we think they are. Because I believe that was the message in Fight Club, that this idea is not as good as you think it is. Sadly, how many people got that message, I'm not sure. And of course, there are just some people who saw this movie as a movie and don't take away anything too big from it, and are just like, wow, that was a really interesting take on a movie, and ended up really liking and enjoying that aspect of revealing that Tyler was just the MC's split personality. I watched the film a couple of days ago with my roommate, and she didn't seem too particularly moved by the film, but she did think the whole Tyler is really inside the MC's mind was a cool trick. And I think that's also an element we have to look at is the fact that some people just see, and I know he meant like Oancitizens mentioned this in his video, that we have to just, that we do have to think more critically about our films, but there are always just going to be people who see films as simple entertainment. I also want to give credit to the filmmakers who are trying to push messages about our society and critique them, even if it gets lost in translation. And I think this is kind of the poster child of, you need to, sometimes you have to get rid of a little bit of subtlety in order to really push your message across. I think that if the movie Fight Club had spent more time condemning Tyler a bit more people would have gotten the message. Anyway, this is the end of the video. I hope you had a good time watching. I had a good time filming. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching. The next vid I'll be doing is probably going to be about either Teen Titans or Yuri on Ice, so watch out for that.